Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I'm honored to come before you after spending the last few months working with my caucus, senators working on different issues and ideas that would help better the state. And I'm just here to tell you or bring to you some of the issues that the Democrat caucus has been working on and that we would like to work in a cooperative way to improve and strengthen the state of Georgia with everyone in this room, conservative or liberal, Democrat or Republican, urban or rural. We all need to work together to improve Georgia. So one thing that I was heard over and over again in our caucus meeting was to make sure people had trust in the state and had confidence that it was a competent but honest government. One bill will create a funding source for the Ethics Commission that would be permanent, that wouldn't be open to appropriations every year. Like Alabama has a set percent of the state budget for funding the Ethics Commission. You don't have to worry about ticking off a chair of appropriations or the governor or this, that. A set amount would be there each year. We lost $7 million in fines because the Ethics Commission was underfunded. Democrats and Republicans had fines reduced because they didn't send out certified letters. If that had happened to deadbeat dads or spouses, abuse victims hadn't gotten fines, to someone else in the system, there would have been an outcry. But $7 million of fine to elected officials around the state was forgiven because they don't have certified letters. We need to make sure we fund that agency properly. We need to make sure we take it out of politics. Another thing that will make that independent is a separate bill that first read, I believe, today, that would create the appointments for that Ethics Commission to be from the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court, 4 members, and 3 members from the Chief Judge's Court of Appeals, again, removing it from the legislative and gubernatorial control and making it more independent. Another issue that we are worried about is what we call stealth taxes. A lot of my constituents and other members of our caucus constituents come to them and said, hey, I pay $1 for every tire that's supposed to go to a fund to manage the waste of these tires. And $6 million a year goes to this fund, and very little money goes back to actually doing that job. The department, our natural resource chair hears us quite a bit of certain fees, the EPD. I think there's $684,000 this year in that fund instead of $6 million. The governor's increasing it a little because he knows that's an issue. But this resolution would mean that 80% of the money collected for a fee would go to the purpose it was intended. So I hope that the majority party will look at that issue and work with us on this issue. Now, there has been certainly a feeling by some of my caucus that we have actually moved in the wrong direction in making voting easier, more open, and more fair. And there's some legitimate debate on that. But we would like to enter that debate and say many states have online voter registration, and many states have registering to vote and voting on the same day. And they haven't had troubles with fraud or criminal activities. It has made the system more fair and more open to the public. We hope you will look at online voter registration, and we hope you will look at registering to vote and voting, same-day voting. Another issue is something that the Senator from 42nd had in last year, an independent reapportionment commission. We went through reapportionment. There are still issues out there that may be litigated, and we need to continue to work to ensure the public that the process is more about them than it is about the people in office. Another issue is one that got a little press recently, Senator from the 5th issue of a moratorium on high occupancy traffic toll lanes, the hot lanes, putting a moratorium. We've seen some troubles in the one up on 85. I personally am just opposed to the concept in a broad path, but I think all of us need to look at it. It is something that these lanes don't make the state money. They cost the state. And are they a wise expenditure of resources. Next, review of Senator from the 34th has a bill that would review special tax subsidies, breaks, and review each one of those in a more thorough manner. One of our Republican colleagues, and I'm trying to look at his number, 7th, I believe, also has a bill to study some of these tax breaks and work on making sure that if we're giving special interest tax breaks or tax subsidies or whatever you want to call it, that they're really producing jobs. And some of them, as you know, have been passed in this chamber that have not been studied as well as they should before we passed them. Some have been on conference committees on the final night of the session and never seen the light of day of a Senate committee when we passed it the last night. Next, we would like to bring to you some issues on these veterans that are returning. We need to make sure they go to work. We need to make sure that they're integrated back to society. So we have one bill that will, Senator from the 6th, that will give a tax credit, much like special zones in our state that we've created, $3,500 tax credits to employers. This would give a tax credit to someone who hires a post 9/11 veteran who's been out of work for 6 months or more, give them a $3,500 tax credit on employment taxes to help them get back in the workforce. If these veterans stay unemployed for more than a year, they have a much harder time coming back to work and become chronically unemployed in many cases, and we need to avoid that. We also want to make sure that the Board of Regents looks very thoroughly at making sure they can accommodate any tuition issues they have and change deadlines if they need it because their VA bill and financing that they get from the state, there's been problems there. We also want to make sure, and our chairman from the 15th, the Veterans and Military Affairs and Homeland Security is working very hard to make sure that the Board of Regents will look at courses they've taken in the military and classes they've taken, and we need to make sure they get credit for those, and that the Board of Regents look at trying to incorporate education they've gotten in military service, if it is appropriate, converts to college credits. We want to make sure that we study issues that affect our children as well. And last year we passed a bill that did away, well, created a loophole that you could bring insurance products to the state and not apply the mandates that have been passed over the years to insurance products by bringing in an out-of-state licensed product to Georgia that doesn't have the mandates. There's two that we felt especially concerned about, and that's the clinical trials for childhood cancer and autism. We think, and we have a bill to that effect, that those issues should be covered even if you have a product licensed out of state. And hopefully our insurance commissioner, who has not approved any of those products to come in at this time, will continue to be a watchdog to make sure that products that come in aren't actually setting us back in health care for our children in the state. This bill will help ensure that no matter who the insurance commissioner is in the future. And finally, Senator 38, I think, has a resolution that we need to fully fund pre-K. And I just want to come up here today. I think all of us know the importance of pre-K and just want it to be a unified statement from this Senate body that facing the challenges of the budget and all the issues that we have, we need to work together to fully fund pre-K in the future because it does make a difference in our children's lives. And we understand the challenges today. We appreciate both parties for being interested and want to address those issues. We have a few others. I just wanted to come down and touch on some of the highlights and ask my Republican colleagues to please work with us. If you're a committee chairman, please put these bills up for hearings so that we can talk about them and debate them in an open manner, and we'll certainly be respectful on our part if treated respectfully. The senator from the 42nd will come up and discuss some issues. We also have a caucus about hope. And Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time here today, and thank you all for listening. Appreciate it.